Hey YouTube, I have a new deck profile for Gravekeepers, and it's for March 2011 Banlist. Let's start out with the monsters. 3 recruiters. They're your search engine of the deck. It gets out all your pieces, gets out your commandment for Necro Valley, so you can roll attribute them. 1 Sangan. This is basically your mini recruiter. It cannot search for commandment, but it can search for a recruiter, or it can search for a spy. But recruiter cannot search for spy, and this can search for commandment. Next we have 3 Descendant. This is your main beater of the deck. It's 1500 attack, but it goes up to 2000 once Necro Valley is on the field. It's basically a scrap dragon for Gravekeepers, and it is really good because then it gets rid of strong beaters like Caius, Monarchs, anything that gets in Gravekeepers. Next we have 3 Spies. He's your wall of the deck, and he gives you pluses, but the bad thing is that you have to be careful when it comes to second and third game, because then your opponent can sign a nobleman's and it can really hurt. Next we have 2 Assailant. These are basically, they help you get rid of tough monsters as well, just like Descendant, but it only works while you have Necro Valley on the field. Basically, if you attack, you can switch the position of a monster to defensible. So if you were to attack a Caius that has 2400 attack, you can switch it to defensible and destroy it. Next we have 3 Commandments. Basically you run 5 Necro Valleys in this deck. These get searched out by recruiters, and Sagan can help get recruiter, which gets this, and this gets Necro Valley. It's like a cycle. So this helps you get your Necro Valley, and it shuts down your opponent's graveyard. Next we have the boss monster, Malefic Star. This card helps you protect your Necro Valley, because on Necro Valley people can always run an MST or MST to destroy it, but this card says no to it. But the bad part is that if your opponent John Trunades, this card goes to the graveyard and your Necro Valley goes to your hand. We have 1 Caius. Caius helps get rid of strong monsters as well. It gets rid of another Caius, a Stardust. It gets rid of tough monsters that Gravekeepers can't run over. 1 Gale, same thing, except it's a mini one. Basically, it can half an attack. So it can have like a scrap dragon to 1400, and you can like push for damage with another monster. Basically, it can have anything it can destroy anything that's 2500 attack or less. So it helps get rid of synchros basically. Now for spells, we have 2 Necro Valley. It's the key part of Gravekeepers. Without it, your deck is kind of dead, but you would have to push for damage for game. It helps your Gravekeepers get an extra boost, so that way they can run over standard monsters like Blackwing Shira, Blackwing Bora, Glad Beast, Lucaria, and stuff. And they shut down your opponent's graveyard, so they can't use Monster Reborn, and they can't use the Breed Dragon's effect or anything. Next we have 2 Road Tributes. I'm happy that it did not go to 1 because it was a ban list, but it went to 2, so it's still fine. The deck is still playable with that. It's a broken card, okay? It drops your opponent's hands once you get your perfect hand. Next we have 2 Gravekeeper Steel. Some decks run 3, but I run 2 because mainly for consistency, and they're basically monster reincarnations for Gravekeepers, except you don't have to discard, and you have to select 2, but it's unaffected by Necro Valley, which is why you can always recycle your monsters back to your hand. I just wish they would go back to the deck. It would be so much better. Next, Allure of Darkness is your draw engine of the deck, and basically you draw 2 and remove a dark. You basically need it to thin up the deck. We have 2 Upstart Goblins. I might have a version 2 of the deck because this deck isn't complete yet. As you can see, because of these Upstart goblins, these are supposed to be part of dualities, but Upstarts works as well, but it will just slow down the deck a little bit. Because then you have to give your opponent's life points. You have to raise your opponent's life points by 1,000 and just to draw a card. It's kind of worth it if you draw like a royal tribute or something. One Book of Moon. I'm disappointed that this card's going to 1. It's just way too broken, but I guess we have to deal with it. And it's not super rare, and it's a common. It just looks super rare because it's all dark. You needed to stop the meta. You just need to stop tuners. You just need to stop your opponents from synchroing. You need to stop your opponents from activating effects and stuff. One Enemy Controller. This card is okay. It's like a good tech for Gravekeepers because what you do with it is that you can tribute this guy or a Sangan, and then you can search off just like how X Sabers play. They have Dark Soul they can tribute. Well, we have this to tribute instead, and we get a search as well. And these are mandatory searches, so we get a search right off instead of waiting until the end phase. When Darko, you get rid of the whole field, and it's always a good plus when you have this guy out, like face down or face up. You mainly want to activate this when your opponent has a lot of monsters. That way you can get a plus off them, and you can get a plus off this guy, and you can neg your opponent. One John Trunade. It's a replacement for Cold Wave because Cold Wave is just way too broken, but this card is broken too. Luckily, Konami didn't hit this card. Next, for the traps, we have one Solemn Judgment, the no card for against anything. It stops any card that your opponent uses, even a summon. Okay, this is my personal tech, Deck Devastation Virus. What this card does is that you can tribute one dark monster with 2,000 or more attack and destroy everything that your opponent has in their hand and field that are monsters with 1,500 or less attack for 3 turns, and that's a lot. It's basically Crush Card Virus, but it's good against like half the decks in the meta right now. It's good against X Sabers, Plants, Frognark, Formula Zero. It's good against a lot of decks. And what you do with it is that while you have Neko Valley on the field, you can use your Descendant. This card would be 2,000 attack. You would also be able to use Malefic Star. You'd be able to use Caius, and you'd be able to use Assailant as your targets for this card. Next, we have one D-Prison and one Mirror Force. These are basically your monster removal when they attack you, so you can protect your monsters and life points. Next, one Bottomless. Why not 2, but 1? Because most decks right now have their monsters have low attack, so you could barely Bottomless anything. And Blackwings died, so the only trouble you would be having is GBs, because then it's a deck's worst matchup. And like Plants, like the only thing you would be able to Bottomless is their Caius or Fronart. You would only be able to Bottomless their Monarchs. Next, one Royal Oppression negates any special summon. This deck doesn't special summons other than Spy and Malefic Star, but other than that, this card will hurt your opponent more than it's gonna hurt you. One Trap Stun and one Torrential Tribute, monster removal, and to negate traps. These can be Solemn Warning, but I just don't have them yet, which is why I'm gonna have a version 2 if I can get those cards eventually. And these are my replacement for them. And last card is that we have Starlight Road. It just protects your field from getting destroyed by Hunley, Dark Hole, and stuff. And for the side deck, you guys can pretty much make it, because then side deck is pretty much personal preference, and the extra deck is just basic stuff. So that's what I got today for the deck profile. See you.